My dear friends, imagine standing at the edge of a vast desert, the winds whispering tales of a leader whose life shaped a nation, a man who spoke with God face to face, yet whose final moments remain shrouded in divine mystery. Today, I invite you to journey with me into the sacred pages of Scripture, to uncover 7 astonishing events that unfolded in the wake of Moses' death. Moments that stirred hearts, shifted destinies, and revealed the eternal hand of God. These are not mere stories. They are beacons of truth, illuminating our path as we seek to understand God's plan for His people. Let us walk together, with open hearts, into this sacred narrative. In the book of Deuteronomy, we are told that Moses, the servant of the Lord, died in the land of Moab as God Himself had decreed. At 120 years old, his eyes were undimmed, his strength unabated, yet his mission on earth was complete. The Israelites wept for 30 days, their grief a testament to the towering figure who led them from slavery to the threshold of the Promised Land. But what happened next? What ripples did his departure send through the people of Israel and the unfolding of God's covenant? Let us explore the first of these astonishing events. The first event that shook the foundations of Israel was the mantle of leadership passing to Joshua, son of Nun. Scripture tells us in Joshua 1 verses 1-2, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses my servant is dead. Now then, you and all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them. This was no ordinary transition. Joshua, a man of courage forged in the wilderness, was chosen by God to lead a grieving nation into uncharted territory. Imagine the weight of that moment, the people looking to Joshua, wondering if he could fill the void left by Moses, the man who parted seas and brought down manna from heaven. Yet God's voice was clear. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. This divine assurance was a beacon of hope, reminding us that God's faithfulness endures beyond any one leader. Joshua's rise was not just a change of guard. It was a testament to God's unending guidance, calling us to trust in His providence even when giants like Moses pass from our midst. Let us now turn to the second remarkable event, the cessation of the manna, the bread from heaven. For 40 years, as described in Exodus 16, God had provided manna to sustain the Israelites in the wilderness, a daily miracle that testified to His care. But in Joshua 5 verse 12, we read, the manna stopped the day after they ate the produce of the land. No longer was there manna for the Israelites, but that year they ate the crops of Canaan. This was no small shift. The end of manna marked the end of their wandering and the beginning of their life in the Promised Land. It was as if God was saying, my children, you are no longer pilgrims sustained by miracles alone. Now you are to live by the fruit of the land I have given you. This moment invites us to reflect. How often do we cling to the familiar, even when God calls us to step into a new season of abundance? The cessation of manna was not a loss but a sign of fulfillment, a call to trust in God's provision in new and unexpected ways. The third event that stirred the hearts of Israel was the crossing of the Jordan River, a miracle echoing the crossing of the Red Sea. In Joshua 3, we see the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, stepping into the swollen waters of the Jordan during harvest season, when the river was at its fiercest. Yet, as their feet touched the water, the flow stopped, and the people crossed on dry ground. This was no mere repetition of past wonders. It was a divine affirmation that the God who delivered them from Egypt was still with them. The crossing of the Jordan was a moment of awe, a reminder that God's power transcends time and leaders. My dear friends, how often do we face rivers of our own, obstacles that seem insurmountable? This event calls us to step forward in faith, trusting that God will make a way, just as He did for Israel after Moses' death. Let us now turn our hearts to the fourth astonishing event, the renewal of the covenant through the rite of circumcision at Gilgal. In Joshua 5 verses 2-7, we learn that the generation born in the wilderness had not been circumcised, the sign of God's covenant with Abraham. After crossing the Jordan, God commanded Joshua to circumcise the men of Israel, restoring this sacred bond. This was no mere ritual. It was a profound act of recommitment to God's promise. Imagine the scene. A new generation, standing on the soil of the promised land, reaffirming their identity as God's chosen people. This moment speaks to us deeply, my friends. How often do we need to renew our own commitment to God, to return to the promises we have made in faith? The events at Gilgal remind us that God's covenant is eternal, yet it calls for our active response, a turning of our hearts toward Him in every new chapter of life. The fifth event that stirred the souls of Israel was the encounter with the commander of the Lord's army. In Joshua 5 verses 13 to 15, as Joshua stood near Jericho, he saw a man with a drawn sword. "Are you for us or for our enemies?" Joshua asked. The reply came, "Neither, but as commander of the army of the Lord I have now come." Joshua fell face down in reverence, for this was no ordinary warrior but a divine messenger, perhaps an angel or a manifestation of God Himself. This encounter was a humbling reminder that the battles ahead were not Israel's alone but God's. The commander's instruction to Joshua, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground," echoed the call to Moses at the burning bush. My dear friends, this moment invites us to pause and recognize the holy ground in our own lives. Those moments when God's presence breaks through, calling us to humility and trust in His divine plan. The sixth event that left Israel in awe was the miraculous fall of Jericho's walls. In Joshua 6, we read how God instructed the Israelites to march around the city for 7 days, with priests blowing trumpets and carrying the Ark of the Covenant. On the seventh day, at the sound of the trumpets and the people's shout, the walls collapsed, delivering Jericho into their hands. This was not a victory of human strength, but of divine power. Imagine the faith required to march in silence, trusting in a plan that seemed so improbable. This event speaks to us across the ages, reminding us that God's ways are not our ways. When we face walls in our lives, barriers of fear, doubt, or adversity, God calls us to trust in His timing and power. The fall of Jericho is a testament that with faith, even the mightiest obstacles can crumble before God's will. Let us now reflect on the seventh and final astonishing event, the establishment of the 12 memorial stones at Gilgal. In Joshua 4 verses 1 to 9, God commanded Joshua to have 12 men, one from each tribe of Israel, take stones from the Jordan River's bed, where the priests stood with the ark, and set them up as a memorial at Gilgal. These stones were not mere markers. They were a testament to God's faithfulness, a visible reminder for future generations of the miracles that brought Israel into the promised land. In the future, when your children ask you, "What do these stones mean?" Joshua declared, "Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord." My dear friends, these stones speak to us today. They call us to remember God's mighty acts in our lives, to share these stories with those who come after us, so that faith may be kindled anew in every generation. What are the stones in your life? Those moments of grace that stand as enduring witnesses to God's love and power. As we draw this journey to a close, let us pause and gather the threads of these 7 astonishing events. The passing of leadership to Joshua, the cessation of manna, the crossing of the Jordan, the renewal of the covenant at Gilgal, the encounter with the commander of the Lord's army, the fall of Jericho's walls, and the memorial stones. All these moments weave a tapestry of God's unwavering fidelity. The death of Moses, though a moment of profound loss, was not an end but a beginning, a doorway through which God's people stepped into a new chapter of His divine plan. These events remind us that God's presence remains constant, even when great leaders pass, when familiar provisions cease, or when daunting challenges arise. My beloved brothers and sisters, as we stand at the threshold of our own lives, let us take heart from Israel's story. Like them, we are called to trust in God's guidance, to step forward in faith across our own Jordans, and to build memorials of gratitude for His mercy. Let us be a people who remember, who recount God's wonders, and who live with courage, knowing that the God who led Israel is the same God who walks with us today. May these stories stir your soul, deepen your faith, and inspire you to seek God's presence in every moment. Let us go forth, carrying the light of His love, and may His peace be with you always.